Welcome to the Simply Soccer podcast. All right, let's get into it. Last week we went over how good at soccer you can get. Definitely take a look at that one with a very important mindset you can use to, kind of see all the possibilities and potential you have. And just a quick few announcements before we get started. You'll notice I haven't had too many videos up on the channel in the last week. I think just a couple. In fact, this podcast is the second podcast in the last 3 videos or something. Don't worry, we'll have more videos up on the channel soon. I have a lot of ideas and videos in the works. Just had to kind of sort with some things, do a few things, and I couldn't get videos done. So don't worry about that, though. Should be fine now. Don't know if I'll be doing every day. I might be, but we'll see. We'll see. Definitely will see. Okay. So this is the second time I'm recording this podcast. I started, but then I thought of an idea I wanted to go over. And I was like, I would much rather create a podcast around that idea than what I'm currently going over. I was going to go over the 5 regrets of the dying with you, because I think they're really, really not enlightening, but really telling, really shifts your perspective a little bit. But I'm just going to say, if you want to take a look at the top 5 regrets of the dying, which I highly recommend you do, it's something I used to read to myself every morning, and I'm actually going to start doing it again in my morning routine, is reading out the top 5 regrets of the dying. But if you just look up top 5 regrets of the dying, you Google that, you will find it. And, it's some interesting stuff to know what the biggest regrets of people on their deathbed is, or what the biggest regrets they have are. So definitely go take a look at that. I highly, highly recommend it, but I'm not going to do a whole podcast on it because you can just look it up and get your own insights from it. So today I want to go a little bit over consistency, a little bit over good and bad habits, and a little bit over something I call the 5-second rule. Actually, I don't call it that. It's someone else came up with it. I mean, this is an old rule, but it's going to be really important. And the reason I'm tying in habits into this is because it's going to be a very crucial idea when it comes to you creating habits, engaging in behaviors you want to, opposed to engaging in behaviors you don't want to. And honestly, it's a strategy I forgot about. And keep forgetting about, and I wish I wouldn't keep forgetting about. I need to actually post it on my corkboard here because it's such a simple yet powerful idea that really does help me when I remember it. So I want to share it with you and how it's going to tie into the other stuff. So first and foremost, I'm making a video called How to Build Self-Belief in Soccer. Some of you may have already seen the first one. I think it was the last video before this podcast, and it was the power of self-belief in soccer, going over the difference between a player that has it and a player who doesn't. So definitely check that video out. It's another really good kind of demonstration video. I've been using a whiteboard to explain some of these lessons just because I think it's a great visual aid. But yeah, definitely go check that out. But I'm making another video as promised in that video that goes over how to actually start building self-belief, because I think it's one of the most important areas of not just life in general, but in soccer as well. It's one of the most important things we need to develop is self-belief in ourselves. Because if you can't, sorry, I'm adjusting myself here, moving about. If you can't, if you don't have confidence in your own ability, it's going to be hard to really do anything. Not just in soccer, but in anything. If you doubt yourself all the time, it's really hard to get anything done, accomplish anything. You start feeling hopeless. So that video is coming out, and a few of the ideas I'm going to go over today, like the consistency and everything, will be included in that video. But I want to touch upon a few things. So the first thing I want to touch upon is good and bad habits, and how good habits lead to more good habits, and bad habits lead to more bad habits. It's almost like a domino effect. Essentially, what a domino effect is you have say you have a bunch of dominoes lined up. By knocking over the first domino, you essentially knock over the rest. And there's also, you can throw in momentum in there as well, because they start to gain momentum to the point where you can knock over bigger dominoes. But I'm not going to get on to that because that's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about how you can sort of use a domino effect with good and bad habits. And so what I realized is that when I'm engaging in good habits, like in habits that I know are good for me, or habits I know I want to develop, or I should say behaviors because they're not habits yet, but like behaviors I want to make habits. When I'm engaging in those, when I am in the middle of those, or I just finished one, I notice that I want to do more of those kind of things. Like whenever I finish meditating, my first thought isn't let's go eat some junk food or watch TV. My first thought is I should go exercise sometime today. Or my first thought is, something like I should go get something healthy to eat. Let's go get something healthy to eat. Or it might be I need to go do some yoga, or I need to do, some other habit that I deem good, right? Now, I notice the same thing happening when I'm engaging in a behavior I don't consider that great, or or one that's not that beneficial. So let's say, for example, that behavior is I'm eating junk food. So I'm eating food that I just shouldn't be eating. I know it's not healthy for me. I know I just, shouldn't be eating it. When I find myself doing that, I find it's a lot easier for me to watch TV. I find that, I'm much more easily convinced to play video games, or I'm much more easily convinced to go on Netflix, or I'm much more easily convinced to just do nothing. Like, not do nothing in a good way, like do nothing, like lie down and do absolutely nothing, or eat more junk food. So essentially, there's a little bit of a domino effect when it comes to these things. And the thing is, you'll start building momentum in whichever area you go. So if you start doing more and more good habits or good behaviors, you will start developing a habit of actually doing good behaviors. Same with the negative stuff. You start eating junk food, it'll lead you to maybe watching TV more than you should, or playing video games. And have you ever noticed that when you're playing video games and when you're watching TV that you want to eat junk food? That may not be the same for everyone, but maybe you want to eat chips while you do it, or you want to eat some candy or drink some soda. It's because, again, bad habits usually lead to more bad habits, and good habits lead to more good. So what I started to notice is I'll start to just, if I'm in a slump, for example, I'll try and break the slump simply by doing something very small that would be considered a good behavior, starting the domino effect, essentially. So let's say I'm having a bad day where I'm not getting much work done, I'm eating poorly, whatever, and I'm like, you know what, I don't want to be doing this, but I think of like a habit I could be doing and it's like too much. So what if I instead just start the process, right? So maybe I get down and do some push-ups. Maybe I do a quick 10-minute workout. Just a quick 10-minute workout. And then from that point, it leads me to taking a cold shower, which then leads me to having a healthy meal, which then leads me to getting some work done that I really need to get done. That's good work, right? Work towards the channel or something, which leads me to going out and doing a session with the ball, doing some ball control drills or dribbling drills, which leads me to then going to the gym and doing like upper body or cardio or something, right? It starts to have this little domino effect. The same way that when you sleep in and don't do your morning routine, and you get up and you eat some junk. You get up and eat that junk, and instead of doing your work, you go and watch TV. You watch that TV, you feel drained for some reason, you go and just browse on YouTube or something. And then you do that, and then you find yourself taking a nap, but it's not like a good nap. It's kind of like, that kind of nap you might take when you're just looking at a screen for too long. And then that leads you to doing something else. And before you know it, your day's over and you've gotten nothing done. You've accomplished nothing, and you've engaged in bad behavior after bad behavior after bad behavior. So if you find yourself doing this, just break it. Do anything small. It can be tiny. It can be the smallest of actions, little baby steps, good behavior. So for me, push-ups is a big one for me. I find this works well. So if I find myself doing something I know I shouldn't be doing, or more specifically, if I'm doing something I don't want to be doing, like if I was browsing or I'm eating junk food or I'm distracting myself, I'll get down, do some push-ups, or maybe I'll go out and kick a ball around for a little bit. The push-up one's, in my eyes, a little better because I can do 10, 20 push-ups in no time, and same with you, you can just do it quickly, get back up and then get back to work. Refocus yourself, recenter yourself. So by doing those push-ups, you break away from whatever distraction or bad behavior you're kind of engaging in, doing something that's good for you, doing the push-ups, which is also going to give you a little kick of adrenaline most times, and a little kick of energy, which then is going to be enough to get you started on that better behavior that you want to do. So let's say I'm trying to get some work done, but I just keep distracting myself, for example, with a funny video I'm watching, or Facebook or Instagram or something, and I'm just doing it. I can just break myself away, do those 20 push-ups, and then get right into my work. Let's say I need to go somewhere, and I've already delayed past 5 seconds, which we'll get into in a second. but I'm like, okay, I'll do it later. I can just get down, do 20 push-ups and say, nope, go do that thing now. Let's say I want to take a cold shower, but I'm bitching out a little bit. I'm like, I don't want to do it. I actually, when I was first doing cold showers, I used to do this. Like, I would turn the shower on, and for a second, if I ever had like a moment of hesitation where I wasn't going to jump within that shower within 5 seconds, I would get down and do like 10 or 20 push-ups and then just jump in right away. And that worked for me so well. I couldn't explain it, but it just worked. I would get down, do my push-ups, and then just jump in, and it just helped me to get into the shower for some reason in the early days. Now I don't have too much of an issue with it because I'm so used to it, where I'll jump in within the first 5 seconds. But that's a good way to do it too. So it doesn't have to be push-ups for you. It can be anything. Have a little small behavior that's a good behavior, something that you like, not necessarily in like, oh, this is comfortable, but as in it's like a habit you want to develop. And just every time you find yourself engaged, and something you can do anywhere. So like push-ups you could technically do anywhere really for the most part. So when you find yourself engaging in bad behaviors, you do that thing. So maybe it's deep breathing. It could be that too. So let's say you're browsing, you're like, I don't want to browse because you're doing it subconsciously. Those things you do without even thinking sometimes. So let's say you're on Facebook and you're like, oh shit, I don't want to be doing this. Maybe for you, it's you take like 10 deep breaths and then go on to the thing you want to do. For me, it's push-ups. Maybe it's you have a soccer ball near you, like a size 1 ball, and you get up and do 50 juggles, right? And the cool thing about this is your disruptor from your distractions is not only something that's going to help you get recentered and refocused, it's something that's going to benefit you. Like if you're doing 20 push-ups every time you get distracted, guess what? That's actually going to help you build a little bit of muscle and a little bit of strength. You start juggling a ball 50 times, like a size 1 ball 50 times every single time you get distracted. And then once you're done the juggles, go to do some actual work or habit you want to do. You're going to start getting better ball control. You do the deep breathing. There's surprisingly, a lot of great benefits from doing deep breathing. So choose something that is what you want to do. This can be anything. Make it like a very quick thing you can do to refocus and recenter yourself, and it will help you stay consistent with the good behaviors you want to do. So whenever you're engaging in that bad behavior, in your heart that you don't want to be doing, eating that junk, watching too much TV, whatever it is. For me, it's get down and do some push-ups. So I used to do the juggling thing too, but I can't find my size 1 ball. So I'm going to actually go looking for it after this podcast because that would be, I kind of want to get into the juggling thing too. But choose your behavior or kind of good behavior you'll do to disrupt your distractions, and then you can just get right back in to whatever it is you need to do. So for example, maybe I'm getting distracted and what I'm supposed to be doing is editing a video. So let's say I'm on Facebook. I go, oh crap, I realize I'm doing it. Get down, do my 20 push-ups, get up and start editing, right? So that's a strategy you can use. Now let's get into the 5-second rule because this is going to be huge. This is an idea that I actually forgot about. And it's only in the last few days that I remembered it. And I've been using it in the last couple days, or last few days, I should say. And it's been working wonders. And I completely forgot about it. And what's cool is I'm at a stage now where I face my fears a little more than I used to in the past. And the 5-second rule helps you do this because I used to use the 5-second rule and still checking out on some of my fears, but I noticed that I'm doing it a lot more now because of where I am. But what the 5-second rule essentially is whenever you have to do something, you give yourself 5 seconds to get off your ass and go do it. So for example, like maybe it's getting out of bed in the morning, like your alarm goes off. You think, okay, 5, 4, 3, and before you get to 1, you just jump out of bed. You just do it. Next action. Then maybe it's 5, in the next 5 seconds, go get a glass of water. Like make the movement to go get the glass of water. It's essentially make sure you're taking whatever your next action is supposed to be within 5 seconds. And the thinking behind this is actually exactly that. You don't want to overthink. Because if I say I'm going to go to the gym at 12 and then I'm like about to go, but I'm like, maybe I can wait. Maybe I can go do this first, blah, blah, blah. What is really happening is my ego or my mind doesn't really want me to go to the gym because it's like, oh, it's going to hurt. It's going to be, tough, whatever. Or maybe it's just a day I have low energy and I don't really feel like it. And my mind is going to have more influence over me at that point. But by only giving yourself 5 seconds to get off your ass and go, it's eliminating the justification your mind's going to give you. Like if I'm, say after this podcast, say I want to go, I think I was going to go kick a ball around. So let's say I want to go kick a ball around, and after this podcast, I'm feeling a little tired because I've been speaking for a while and thinking and going over ideas, and it's just drained me a little. Let's say that happens. I don't even give myself the time to think of all that. I just kind of go. It does exactly that. It doesn't allow me to make the excuse or justification. It's like 5, 4, okay, I'm on my way. I get to go. So use this with your habits. And I find this works really well. And what I'll do is I'm going to go get it right now. I have on an index card, and I do this most days, where I write down what I'm going to be doing next. So on here, for example, I have lumosity. And after that, it looks like I took a cold shower. And then it was do a course lesson. Then it was do a video. Then it was vacuum. And how this worked is I basically will have like lumosity, cold shower. And then after cold shower, or after lumosity, I'll put what the next thing is. So there's always like 2 activities. And usually I have a schedule to go on too, so I kind of know what I need to get done and what's next. And I'll just do that. And what this does is then I'll look at the next thing I have to do, and I get my 5, if I'm not taking a break, because sometimes I'll throw in breaks, like maybe like a 15-minute break to go outside or to do something. After I've done a bit of work or done a few of the things on this list. Well, what happened is, so I'll be like, okay, lumosity. And then I'm done lumosity. I'll see what's next. And if there's no break, I'll be like, cold shower, 5 seconds. And I'll go get ready to do the cold shower. I'll start making the movement and start taking the action within 5 seconds. So after cold shower, I get out of the cold shower, I come back, I get dressed, I'm dried off. I'm like, okay, what's next? Course lesson. Okay, to the core 5 seconds. Right? I don't give myself any more time, because if you do, well, 10 seconds has passed and, you've already thought of a reason why you shouldn't do it. 30 seconds has passed and you're like, well, I could just do it later. I could, maybe I don't need to do it today because, I'm just not feeling like it. I'll probably feel like it tomorrow. I don't have that much energy today. And, so maybe, I don't want to do it when I don't have any energy. I mean, come on, and then eventually after a minute's passed, you're totally not going to do it. You're not going to do it later in the day. You're not deep down, you're not. And just through waiting a bit longer, you could have sabotaged your whole day just from that one little moment. And the 5-second rule helps prevent this, because you give yourself 5 seconds and you cannot think of a good argument in 5 seconds. You're not going to be like, you're not going to be able to say it fast enough to yourself. You're just like, okay, I got to go work out. And your brain's like, and you're like, nope, gone. You're already doing it. And before your mind has time to freaking argue with you, you're already at the gym and you're already curling. Or you're already at the gym and you're already running on the treadmill. So this is one I want you to start using in your day-to-day, is the 5-second rule. And you can look up the 5-second rule. There's a lot of stuff that's covered. This is that people who go over this. This is not my idea, not at all. This is, I think this idea goes way back. This might even go back I don't know how far back this goes. I don't want to feed you misinformation here, but this is an old idea, and essentially it still works. And I remember actually seeing and it's amazing to me, and this is why I went over like momentum and domino effect and everything. It's amazing how one small shift can change your life, or one small idea can actually start the process or the domino effect that changes your life. And I was watching a video on someone going over the 5-second rule. The video wasn't about the 5-second rule, but basically she was talking about it. And it was something like consistency, or something like not making excuses or something. And it was like a bunch of clips from really, really successful people who on like their ideas of this compiled together. Actually, the channel it was from Evan Carmichael's channel. If you've ever watched his stuff, really good channel. Definitely go check it out. He does a lot of like entrepreneur stuff and like motivational stuff, like the top 10 rules of this person. So like what their habits are, what their disciplines are, and all that. So who I was watching, I can't remember her name, but it was definitely someone very successful, and she was getting interviewed, and she was talking about how she basically switched her life, because she was like, essentially she said, she would be going through the motions or something, or like she wasn't getting out of bed at the time she wanted to be getting out of bed. And she said, then one day, I know I needed to change, and I just changed it by doing this. And one day, when I was getting out of bed, the alarm went off. And instead of hitting the snooze, which she would usually do, she, in her mind, went 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, take off. Like NASA, like a spaceship's actually taking off. And she would actually she said she did this out loud sometimes. Like she would actually, as soon as her alarm went off, she'd go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, take off. And when she said take off, she would jump out of bed. And she said that one little idea, which is essentially the 5-second rule, changed her life. Like it was what prevented her from hitting the snooze button. She started getting up earlier, and I don't know all the details, but she was attributing that to something that was the catalyst for her changing. And it was such a simple idea. I mean, how simple is the idea of, oh, she just didn't hit the snooze button and instead she started to get up by going 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then getting up. How simple is that idea? It's such a simple idea. It's such an easy idea to implement too. And yet this simple, easy idea that anyone can do changed her life. It was the catalyst for her developing better habits and good behaviors and accomplishing things. It was the catalyst. And it was so simple. And that's how powerful the 5-second rule can be. And you can do it in any way. Make it fun for yourself. You can do the blast off thing like she did. In fact, that'd be cool to try. I might try doing that, the blast off, going 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, lift off or blast off or whatever it is. And that's a cool idea. You can do it like that if you want. But really start to employ the 5-second rule. Again, I think it's one of the most powerful ideas to me, because it's an idea that encourages action. And to me, the ideas that actually encourage you to take action or actually get you off your ass and cause you to take action are, to me, some of the most powerful ideas, because there's a ton of great ideas out there, but not all of the ideas out there will actually motivate you to take the action needed to succeed. Because in reality, I can see in my life, when I was taking more action than I was at other points, I had more success and momentum in those periods when I was actually taking action. When I compare it to times when I've gone through a slump or times where I haven't been taking as much action as I needed to, I've always noticed that there are huge differences. And that's because you start building momentum when you're doing this over and over again. Back to consistency. When you're consistent, you start building momentum, meaning you don't usually progress at a linear rate. It's usually more like a curve, right? There's waves in a sense. There's like peaks and troughs or peaks and valleys, but you start to gain momentum. So what I want you to try and do is think of you can do this actually. Let's do this. Write down the good habits you want to develop, like the good behaviors. This can be physical. This can be mental. It can be whatever. So I'll give you some examples of what mine would be. For me, if I was going to do physical ones, I want to be meditating on a daily basis. I want to be exercising in some capacity. Even on rest days, I want to go for at least a jog or kick a ball around a little bit. Now, there might be days where I don't do this because I'm super sore and I just can't. But for the most part, on a consistent basis, I want to do that. I want to be eating healthy every day. Again, you can do like an 80-20 rule where you eat healthy 80% and then fun 20%. You can still do that. Other things is I want to, be getting touched on the ball every single day, not just exercise, but actually doing drills that are soccer relevant with the ball, right? I want to be working on SimplySoccer every day. So that's just a few examples, right, of good habits I want to develop. So write down yours. What are the good habits you want to develop? And this can be big or small. Don't think of things like that everything you do has to be this large thing. Incremental integrity is what's going to get you to wherever it is you want to go for the most part. And what incremental integrity means is essentially doing the little things you need to do every single day to get to that bigger goal and having that incremental integrity. So don't disqualify something just because it may seem like a small thing. It could be something as small as you want to drink water, like a glass of water when you wake up. Don't underestimate how that can actually affect you if done consistently. Because if you did that every day and it's been like a few months, you would actually notice differences. If you, for example, got up at a certain time every day and did a certain routine that benefits you in a great way every single day, you would start to notice differences if you maintain consistency. So write those things down. What are the habits you want? The morning routine? Do you want to read more? Whatever it is, list them. Write them down. Okay? And when you write these down, I want you to, whatever you write down, have this close to you, in a place where you go often. So I have a lot of my stuff on a cork board. I also have a whiteboard, but I use that for I've been using that for lessons, so I've had to transfer stuff off of that. But have it somewhere where you frequent often. So I don't know, maybe you can put it on your bathroom mirror. Maybe you have a desk that you go to all the time. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just on a wall in your room. Put all the habits you've written down, the ones you want to develop, the ones you want to have, So these, and when I say habits, like these are things you do like consistently on a daily basis. Write it down. I want you to put it somewhere where you're going to see it a lot. And I want you to start actively trying to create these habits. Now, don't bite off too much, more than you can chew. Definitely prioritize some. Like there might be one where you're like, okay, well, I want to develop this more than that. That doesn't mean you can't develop both, but you want to focus more on the one, right? So make sure you're doing that. And then hang it up somewhere where you're going to go all the time. And what I want you to do is throughout the day, if you find yourself in a slump, if you find yourself not engaging in the things you want, I want you to take a look at this list. Pick something that's really simple. Again, like what is the thing, like I mentioned deep breathing, push-ups for me. I want you to find first what you're going to have as your disruptive habit from distraction. So when you find yourself being distracted, when you find yourself engaging in a behavior you don't want to do, now you can be watching TV, say with friends, and that's completely conscious and that's something you want to do. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the times when you're watching TV and you know you shouldn't be and you kind of don't want to, but you're kind of just drawn in, or you're on YouTube browsing and you know you should be doing work, but you're kind of drawn in. So that's what I'm talking about. So I want you to first identify what you're going to make your disruptive habit that disrupts your distraction, whatever you're distracted with. So choose that first. And then I want you to choose the main habits you want to develop. So what are the main habits? And pick, don't pick too many yet, but pick like the main ones that you think that if you did these on a daily basis, that, things would start to change in your life. Things would start to change in your game, right? So maybe you want to, maybe if you don't have a morning routine yet, you want to commit to waking up at a certain time every single morning. So let's say you want to wake up at 6. Maybe you have school at, what time do you guys, I don't know. Okay, let's say you get up at 5 and you have school at 7:30, although it's summer, so you won't be doing that. So bad example. So let's just say you want to get up at 6 and you want to wake up right away, drink a glass of water, do 30 minutes of soccer practice, come inside, take a cold shower, and then do some reading or learning or something like that. And you want that to be your morning routine. Write that down and pick that. And what I want you to do is start developing these main habits you've chosen. So again, pick a few. And don't choose too many because I don't want you to be overwhelmed. And I want you to start implementing or start using the 5-second rule to start developing these habits. So what you're going to do on a daily basis is you're going to use that disruptor to stop you from engaging in negative behavior. So if you find yourself browsing, you're like, oh crap, you're down, you're doing push-ups, or you're juggling a soccer ball. And then right after that, you're going to get into your good behavior. I want you to use the 5-second rule when you have to go on to the next thing. So let's say, and start developing the 5-second rule and start making that a habit. That in itself is a habit, using the 5-second rule. I mean, I've just learned this recently because I forgot about the 5-second rule. And if I had habitualized using the 5-second rule, guess what? I wouldn't be forgetting about it. So make sure, that's something you have to develop as well. So have reminders, again, somewhere where you're going to frequent that reminds you to use the 5-second rule. Okay? So you're going to do that. And then what I like to do, and you can take this if you want, is I still have like my schedule written out and like what I'm going to be doing at certain points. But on an index card every day or on a Post-it note, usually an index card works better because there's more room. I'll just write out what I'm going to do next. So what's next? And then I'll write out the thing that I'm going to do after that. Now, again, you don't need to... These can change. Like, for example, at one point on today's, I wrote video, but I ended up vacuuming first because I wasn't able to record the video right away, and vacuum was after because my room needed to be vacuumed. That was after video, technically. So, I mean, you don't have to, like, be too, like, crazy with this and stick with it 100%. But that's the idea you want to go with. So let's say you write on there after you wake up, okay, I'm going to go do my workout. And then when I get back in, I'm going to go shower. So you write workout, shower, boom, you're right into it. Workout. Come back in from your workout, bam, write the next thing. Go to your shower. And then keep doing that and use the 5-second rule to go from thing to thing to thing. Even write down when you're going to take a break. And this may sound like super disciplined, and this may sound like it's so rigid, but let me remind you, these are things you want to do. Like it's always an interesting thing when I hear that. It's kind of like, oh, well, if you keep writing everything down and scheduling everything, you won't be spontaneous, or you'll be too rigid, or you won't be doing the things you want to do. And I'm like, what are you talking about? The things I want to do, I'm scheduling. That's the whole point. The things that I want to be learning and getting done, I'm actually scheduling. And by doing that, not only am I getting those things done quicker, I'm opening up more time because I'm getting those things done earlier. So don't think it's too rigid. And another thing too is always remember this, is what's scheduled is always subservient to what matters. So for example, if you have something that's scheduled that you want to do, but something that's more important comes up and it's something that matters more to you, you do the thing that matters more. Okay? And there'll be exceptions to that sometimes, but for the most part, so if you have a schedule and you got to do this, but something comes up like a family thing, or you want to, this is happening or whatever, and you actually, your priorities have changed and you had something scheduled that wasn't so much of a priority, but now you want to do this because it's more of a priority. Feel free. Again, this is flexible. Your schedule should be flexible. You're, to a certain extent, I mean, as long as you're the one doing the flexibility, like you're the one that's deciding what goes where. Okay. So do that. Have your habits scheduled each day and have them on that card, like that index card, and then only give yourself 5 seconds to go from one thing to the next. And again, if you don't do it after 5 seconds, get down and do your disruptor because you're in your head. So let's say you have, let me give an example. So let's say I have to go, I just finished my, like I just ate and I'm about to, and my next thing to do is go do video editing. So let's say I'm like, okay, video editing, and I take longer than 5 seconds, and I'm like, yeah, but what if I blah, blah, blah. I'm going to get down and do my push-ups. So you can actually disrupt your thought pattern as well. That's trying to distract you from doing what you need to do. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So start doing this, start actually feeling the benefits of this, start feeling what consistency is like, and use the 5-second rule. Remember, good behaviors lead to more good behaviors, bad to bad, domino effect. And just stick with it, and have that disruptor. Again, have that distraction disruptor, whether it's push-ups, whether it's deep breathing, whether it's juggling a ball, whether it's maybe an affirmation can even do it. Although I kind of like something that's physical because that kind of shuts your mind off a little bit. Like when I go do push-ups, I have to focus on the push-ups. I can't really be thinking about stuff too much. When I'm juggling, I have to concentrate on juggling. I can't really focus too much on anything else. That's why I like physical disruptors instead of just, ones that are not. Deep breathing, again, got to focus on your breath. Okay? So have one of those as well. And, start developing these habits that you want. Again, it's you want these strategies in place because when you're developing a new habit and trying to replace a bad one, there's going to be times when you're not going to want to do it. And that's why having things like the 5-second rule and this distraction disruptor is really good, is a great strategy to make sure you follow through and you stay consistent, build that momentum and all that. All right, guys. So that's going to be it for this podcast. Hope you enjoyed this lesson. Remember, I'm going to have a video on building self-belief that's going to actually go over consistency a little more, but it's actually got 5 other ideas about self-belief that I think are very important. So make sure you don't miss that. I will also, before that, I may even have another video about how to play striker. So definitely check that out. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Again, we're going to do a hashtag, which lets me know that you've listened in. I always like to have a hashtag for those of you who don't know, who have listened all the way, so that I can recognize who's actually been listening and who's not. It also, if you have a listened all the way, leave the hashtag along with a question. I am more likely to answer it. Even if you don't have a question, leave the hashtag in the comments just to let me know that you listened all the way. All right, so let's think of a hashtag, and by we, I mean me. So we'll go, what were we talking about? Yeah, do hashtag 5-second rule. That's simple enough. So hashtag's 5-second rule indicates to me that you've listened to this all the way, and that, you're taking the time to learn new ideas and concepts that will hopefully help you in some way. All right, guys, thank you so much. My voice is completely shot. Been doing a lot of videos today, so you may have been hearing that. Thank you again. We will have some more videos on the channel. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. You know the deal. Like, share, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you or speak to you in the next podcast or video.